Hey, I'm Scott,
And I'm Charity.
and we're pastors of St. City, a church outside of St. Louis.
We've been together over 15 years
And we've been through a lot.
and are going through a lot.
We failed and succeeded,
We've flown and we've fallen.
and we've lived a whole lot of life along the way.
We've worked together more than 15 years in marriage, in ministry, business, and parenting.
And did I mention we have 4 kids, 9 and under?
And if we've learned anything, it's that life is not about the arrival.
It's about all the life along the way.
Hey guys, it's Scott and Charity here for another amazing podcast of Life Along the Way.
What's up?
Hopefully y'all are doing good. We wanted to pick right up really where we left off last episode, which was kind of talking about how we went from infertile to 3 kids in like a matter of 2 years.
Yeah, it was like
It was
baby,
crazy.
baby.
Yes. So we had said what, like,
Isn't there a song that's like, baby, baby?
Amy Grant.
I know, it's
Yeah.
throwback.
It's way
I
throwback.
actually had an LP. It was old when I was younger, so it's really old. But it was an LP, and it was a picture of her with like a stoplight in the back, like a traffic light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your dad does not like Amy Grant, so I try to gift him Amy Grant CDs
Yeah.
as often as I can. Oh, but anyway, so as of December 26th, 2013, we had 1 kid. December 11th, 2014, we had 3 kids. So it was like crazy.
You know, I had to fill out all of those birth dates last weekend when we were at the racetrack
It was a chore.
because in order to get your children into the pit where the cars are, you have to sign a waiver. And I think we signed them like multiple times, the birth dates. And I was like, this is kind of difficult.
Struggling a little bit.
Yeah.
My dad still doesn't know what year I'm born or how old I am. So,
It's just a lot of numbers to
it's
sit there
something.
and, yeah.
yeah, he has a lot of kids, so it doesn't surprise me.
So we showed up to the pit and they were like, oh, Kids Club is here.
All of it.
No, it's just our family.
Yeah. But like I said, we kind of left off last week talking about how we had gone through a really difficult season of loss and infertility, and how God all of a sudden just boom, boom, boom started doing some crazy miraculous things, and we were able to have our next 3 pregnancies without any assistance at all, which is really kind of unheard of.
Don't you think we should say last 3? Our last 3 pregnancies.
Yes, our last 3, not our next 3.
Right,
We're done.
because
We're absolutely done.
The way that you said that,
Like there's another.
it kind of made my heart palpitate in a negative rhythm.
No, we are done. But yeah, it was, I don't know, it was a little bit of a journey. So maybe Scott can explain kind of what happened whenever we found out we were pregnant with our 3rd child, Silas, because when we found out we were pregnant, Faith was only 2 months old.
Yeah. And how did we even find out? Did you take a pregnancy test?
Yes, I took a pregnancy test
You're
because
crazy. Why would you even take one? Because I didn't even think it was possible. So that's kind of crazy.
well,
that you would
okay,
even...
I don't want to go TMI, but to be honest, after you have a baby, you usually go back for like a postnatal visit. And usually by the time you go back, your body has started to cycle again. It's all that kind of stuff.
Well,
and
I get the TMI abbreviation.
I hadn't had that happen, and I had the appointment coming up, and I knew that they were going to ask, and, you know, when did, you know, your cycle start again, this and that, just for all the
So you
questionnaires.
decided to take it, and
Yes. And I was very surprised at what happened, because I had a really, really rough delivery with Faith, like a very rough delivery with Faith. And so I was still recovering, honestly.
Yeah, I mean,
2 months in.
You almost didn't make it. You had a blood transfusion. They coded you out in the room filled with 20-some people, and you were turning pale. it was bad. And we'll save that for another episode because it's one of those epic stories like parasailing or
Yeah.
anything else.
Anything else, getting gas and not having the money.
Right. But what ended up happening was I remember us going into the doctor together and the lady at the counter seeing us carry our
Infant.
our infant seat, and we're carrying, and they pulled the file and they were like, oh, wait, I think there's a mistake because it says here that you're pregnant and obviously you're not. You have a 2-month-old baby. And we looked at each other and we looked at her and we were like, yeah. And they said, oh, well, okay.
Yeah. And I remember my mom's reaction was just, oh no.
Yeah, but it wasn't even like that level. It was like despair. Oh no, like, oh no. And
Yeah.
I don't think it was because we're having another kid. It was because we just went through almost losing you through that delivery. And we were unsure if
You were going to even try to have any more.
I was not.
You were.
That was the heaviest thing on me, is that I didn't know if I wanted to go through that again because I almost lost you. And that was a big thing. There was that moment where when the baby was born, I had a choice to like walk over to Faith, who was just born, or stay with you as you were coding and not doing well. And you told me to go to the baby, but I did not want to.
Yeah. So it was
in that
scary.
moment.
I think that I almost felt like a bystander in the whole thing. I think it was so bad that I almost didn't feel present in it. And so I don't think it didn't sink in how bad it was. But I remember right after everything kind of, leveled out in the hospital with Faith. And you were already like, I don't think we should have any. This is it. We're done. Let's not even try.
Yeah.
All that type of thing. And so whenever we found out we were pregnant without trying,
It's like
and
we had
a
not
2-month-old.
even, it just was not on our radar. We were unsure if we wanted any more children. And if Hope had anything to say about it, she would have been the only one. So, and we love Hope. So we just didn't listen to her for a little while. So, as I'm thinking about what it's like to have that happen, a lot of people have multiples now.
A lot of people have multiple.
And the issue, I think, was like in the back of my mind, you used to watch like all these shows like John and Kate plus 8 and like multiple this and Octomom and all this craziness.
TLC.
And I'm remembering that, like, okay, when we had our first child, you were on the same medicine as Octomom. They warned us that there was, a high chance of multiples. And
multiples run in my family.
at that point in time, when we were trying to get pregnant, we were totally okay.
Oh yeah, we
with
were so
multiples.
eager to have a
However,
family. We were like, that would be amazing.
the way that everything panned out, where we just had a baby and then got pregnant again, man, oh man, it was scary.
It was hard because it was 2 pregnancies for 2 babies that were within a year instead of 1 pregnancy with 2 babies. And so the hard part was, number one, physically. We were in a season where, I was used to doing everything for Hope, and we had just had Faith. And then all of a sudden I'm pregnant again, and my body had not recovered. I was anemic. I had, injuries and muscle tears and all sorts of stuff from carrying, because I was carrying so big.
They gave you the wrong type of blood that caused an issue later on.
Yeah, they did.
There was just a lot of things that even this past year, and our son's 6 years old, that we just kind of figured out this year, 6 years later.
Yeah.
On some things that happened once you got a blood transfusion that had the wrong antigens in the blood.
Yeah, so there's the regular antigen, you think, which is the Rh factor, which is plus or negative. Are you O positive? Are you O negative? But there's also like several other antigens that people can have. And they had given me, I think it was a little e, and I did not have a little e. And so whenever we went in and they tested, they do those blood tests every time you're pregnancy just to say they did them. And whenever we
For
went
our
with
third
Silas,
baby.
yes, we went in with Silas and they ran it, and I had this foreign antigen present in my blood, and it was rising.
That causes your body to attack a new pregnancy.
In itself, yeah.
It basically, the blood that they put in that was foreign was not matching up with the new development of the baby, and so the body was just attacking everything. And they said, look, we have to closely monitor this because your body is attacking the baby.
Yeah. And so that was a scary thing in and of itself, just because we had lost.
I mean, that's just the way we roll.
Yeah. And so we had all of that going on. But then as the months went by, if your body doesn't heal from a pregnancy, usually it takes, I think they say, to wait 2 years between kids before you try to get pregnant. And that's hilarious because your muscles and that sort of thing, they need time to heal. Well, I went literally 2 months in. And so my nutrient levels, my iron levels, everything was already bottomed out. And so the third pregnancy for me was extremely hard. And then none of my muscles had any time to heal. And so when I was carrying Silas, who was a huge baby, like huge, it was I looked like I was carrying 4 babies like 5 months in.
Yeah, we had people saying, like, how many babies are in there? We'd say 1, and they'd say, are you sure?
Yeah, it was.
And it's kind of rude when you say
things.
something like that. If you're listening and you've ever come in contact with someone who's pregnant, don't comment on really anything other than, it's just so awesome that you're having a baby.
The worst comment one of the worst comments I got, and it was just so bizarre, I couldn't even respond snarky. I just had to did they just say that? That we were in line at, it was like a church mission something, and it wasn't at our church, it was at one of our network churches. And there was an elderly lady in front of me with one of her friends, and she turns around and she puts her hand on my stomach, which okay. My love language is touch. However, that is limited to my husband only. I am not a touchy-feely person. I don't like to be.
Well, in our kids,
Yeah, in our kids. I snuggle my babies, but I am not a hugger. I'm not like a touchy-feely person. So the whole touching my belly was just already okay, are you done yet? And then she made the comment, not even to me, she looks at her friend and she says, isn't it just amazing how the body can get so big? Isn't it just amazing what the body can do and how it can just stretch so much? And I just looked at her and I was like, okay. And I didn't have any words at all. But yeah, it got a lot of comments, but I was really big. I was really low. And then on top of it, we had Faith, who was a little bitty baby. And so there was a lot of guilt I experienced because I felt like she got robbed of having her baby time, of being the baby and being the only one.
Well, and what we did not know, Hope was a fairly easy baby. Everything was uneventful. And
she was the easiest baby in the world.
It was easy, right?
Yes.
And then when we had our second child, we did not know, but there were some difficulties with her, and it made it extremely difficult. And I really think that it made being pregnant again more amplified because we were dealing with a baby who was colicky and upset all the time with the birth of Faith and not really understanding what is going on and why can't we make her happy and just be content like we did with our first kid.
Yeah, and I remember I was still coaching junior high softball, and I coached high school softball, but I was pregnant with Silas. And I would leave, and Scott was always home from work before I went to softball practice, and so he had Hope and Faith for 2 hours, 20 minutes, depending on how long the parents took to pick up their kids. And every single day I would try to get Faith to take a nap, because if she was awake and she was home alone with
she would
with
scream
him,
the whole time.
literally, not exaggeration, scream like she was being murdered for 2 solid hours. And then I would walk in the door and pick her up, and she would just totally be fine. And so that was actually why we decided for me to stop coaching, because that was so hard with Faith. And we actually found out that a lot of the things that she was experiencing were probably as a result of the very hard labor we had with her, and forceps, and, you know, being stuck in the canal too long. And we ended up finding out that she had some sensory sensitivities. And so, you know, she's come a long way. She does awesome now. But as a baby, it was really, really hard to, I felt, parent her or help her cope, because we didn't realize that this isn't just a personality type. Like, she's feeling overwhelmed.
And
She
in
doesn't
that
know how to-
season, like, we really didn't know, but I noticed that you were going through some extra stuff, and it was difficult because your hormones were changing because you're pregnant. But we had this brand new baby, and we didn't find out until our first son, our third kid, Silas, was born, that after Faith was born, you had postpartum.
Yeah. Looking back, it was really obvious that I had postpartum. Just because I remember like begging her audibly, like at night, please stop crying, please, Faith, stop crying. And, you know, she's 6 months old. She has no idea what I'm saying. And just being in a really, really hard season, but it was a really hard season. And so whenever we had Silas, that just compounded to where it wasn't like I could just, you know, cope and still go on.
And when we shared with the doctor, you shared, I remember him saying, "Oh my goodness, like, yeah, that's incredibly obvious. That's what's going on, and we need to do our best to like make sure that doesn't happen now, especially with a 1-year-old and a newborn."
Yeah. And he was awesome.
And a 3-year-old.
And,
So we, you know, after last week's episode, as we were leaving, we thought through like our timeline. So we went from no children, okay, to within 3 years having 3 children. But the way that they were spaced out,
a newborn,
Yeah.
a 1-year-old, and a 3-year-old, 2.5-year-old, actually.
yeah.
3-year-old. Yeah.
And so let me tell you, when that happens that way, you go from, and you have to be careful what you ask God for, because we were like, God, give us a big family. Lord, give us babies, please. You know, we had people laying hands on us and praying for us. And
Okay.
God said, you know,
if you really want it.
I have a plan. And one of the things that I wanted to share was a scripture out of Ecclesiastes chapter 3. And verses 1 through 3 says, "There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, and a time to tear down and a time to build up." And one of the things a scripture like that helps us understand is that there's a time for everything.
And that means a season doesn't go forever. So even though it may not be fun to admit, like, okay, this is an actual season. This isn't just like a blip. There's an end to this season. So just knowing that it does come to an end, because I remember being in the middle of that and literally feeling like, I'm never going to sleep again. I'm never going to shower again. I'm never going to look like a normal person again. And I don't want to say that I didn't have anyone that was like praying for me or anything, but not having the consistent, this is just a season, kind of felt like despair. And so that's like,
Yeah, we weren't a part of any fellowship outside of the church that we were planting that were people who were feeding into us. And so
I feel
that's
like it was
changed
the
a
opposite.
lot.
Right now,
But
I have so many amazing women that are in ministry that are kind of farther along in their journey than where I am, and some that are kind of right where I am. And I am filled up so much from our Radiant network, our Next Level network. But at that time, I did not have one person I could, you know, be totally honest and just open up and share with.
Oh, you did it with me, but I couldn't fix it or really encourage you because you were like, take this baby.
And you're like, I don't want to.
So it was like, I'm struggling. Take the baby. You know, that voice came out every once in a while. Take the baby. You did this to me.
Are you done?
Yes.
Do you have any more?
No,
Okay. So, luckily, because I had a supportive husband that was like, hey, I do think that this is something we should check out, when I came to him after I had Silas. And was like, I don't think this is normal. I think I actually need help. This isn't going away.
And it was difficult for us because we were kind of in the camp for a long period of time where, you know, we didn't acknowledge stuff like that. We didn't, you know, talk to a doctor about mental health because in many cases we were we were a part of the perspective that, you know, you lack faith and you go to God with everything. And we very quickly, in a season where we were able to experience that the help of a doctor changed our lives, changed the quality of our lives for our children and for our family as a whole. And we had some things break off of us whenever we realized that God gives us medical doctors and gives us the ability to heed advice from people with wisdom on conditions. And part of the blessing of God giving us the ability to have intelligence and to utilize the mind that he's given us to help each other, we were able to embrace help in a season in a way that we probably, if we asked other people who were in our close circle to say, well, you know, if you do that, that's not good.
Yeah, and there had even been times where just talking about counseling prior to us being where we are now, we were actually given advice not to go to counseling because sometimes it just digs things up, which is kind of the point of counseling. So that's a good thing.
Well,
but counseling,
one of the
medication.
pastors who was over us previously, whenever, you know, we said, hey, we're going through some stuff, we're thinking about seeking some counseling, we were told not to because it brings stuff up. Mm-hmm. Hey, have we gone to counseling?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
He's very proud of himself. And guess what we
found out? When we go to counseling, who do we talk about the whole time? Me and my issues. And not even when I try. I try to stay quiet, and they begin to ask questions.
So Scott turns into, like on the Goonies, there's Chunk, and when he's with the brothers, they're trying to he like just starts confessing. He's like, and one time in 3rd grade, I went to the movie theater when we are in counseling.
Well, I just figure let's get it out because you're going to try to pull it out of me anyway. So I just
Scott's
go in there.
just like, okay, this is what it is. He does not like uncomfortable silence, and so if I stay quiet long enough, he will just spill his guts. It's hilarious.
Is that your strategy when we go to counseling? That's your strategy.
That's my strategy. It works
just
really
give me your
well.
Secret strategy. Okay, well, I'm going to have to be very quiet next time.
It might take all your energy.
See what happens.
Yeah, but
so here we had we go through that delivery. We had a C-section. We did not have our son's name until
we didn't know he was a boy. I had always wanted to wait and find out what we were having, and the first one, Scott's like, oh, absolutely not. We're finding out. And I was too, because we had waited so long to get pregnant. Well, with Faith, I wanted to wait. And
I said, no.
Scott's like, no, I can't wait that long. And I'm like, okay, well, if we find out this time, if we ever have another baby.
So here's the thing.
Can we not find out the next time?
You know, she can try to act like there was some regal reason why she wanted to wait. She doesn't really like surprises too much. But what it was, here's what it is. She did not want to go through 9 months of me being sad that we were having another girl.
It's true. That was a big part of it.
And so she was like, we're going to rip the Band-Aid off. And when the baby comes out,
you'll be happy.
Then the baby will be there and you will not be sad that we have 3 girls. Well, here's what happened. We go into the operating room for the C-section. They go through the whole thing and they let me watch and they sit the baby up. And it's the weirdest thing ever. He's sitting halfway in her, and like his upper body is out. And they're like, "Are you ready?" And they're holding the baby. They go 1, 2, 3, and they pull him out, and they go, "It's a boy." And as he comes out, he literally is peeing 6 feet and hoses everybody in the operating room. But it was amazing, and they all laughed. So they must have experienced that before, I'm hoping. But we had our boy.
Yeah, and so that was a really cool thing that we did. He let me do it, and I did not think he was going to go through with it, but it was really cool to be able to have that surprise. And he was huge. So my first baby was tiny. Then our second baby was like 8.5 pounds, but she was 3 weeks early. And then Silas, he was 3 weeks early, and he was like 9 pounds, 8 ounces, 12 ounces.
He was big.
He was huge.
Yeah.
And he was, by the time he was a month old, he was in like
4 diapers, size 4?
size 4 and like 12-month-old clothes.
Yeah. And so before he was 1, he was in
40.
4T.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible.
He was huge.
And
He was like the biggest prize turkey baby ever, the cutest thing in the whole entire world. But yeah, so we had him as a huge baby. He couldn't even fit into like traditional baby things because his legs were so big.
no, he was like a man.
He was like a man, and we'd
a
have to
man-child.
like roll up all his clothes because he was too big to fit in regular clothes. Yeah. So we had 3. So after Silas, like you had said, I did seek help, and Scott was really supportive, and it changed my world. Like it changed. I felt like I was myself again for the first time in a really long time. And so being able to navigate having 3 kids, 2 of them in diapers, and them be so little, if I would not have sought help, I think I would have had a mental break. I think something bad would have happened, and it would have not turned out well.
And we're blessed because we have both sets of parents that are close. Both sets of our parents go to our church, and we're just blessed.
Yeah.
I mean, our children have 2 other homes to go to, and to them, they're like second and third sets of parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
Thank God.
sang that song. Where you going? Where you at? Oh, you're not home. Don't say that.
So literally, we have him, and we basically have like this gaggle of 3, and we're doing good. Other than the stress and the chaos and the triple strollers and the
which are very hard to find.
Finding
and very
a
expensive.
vehicle that can fit that stuff, and splitting time between children is a new concept to us, and it all happened within a 12-month period.
Really
we had
quickly.
1, and then in 12 months we had 3, and
it was really hard. I felt like I was not enough very often.
Well,
like
you're
I felt
not.
like I could never be enough.
I'm a baby in and of myself, and I have my own needs and need help, and my own like requirements for food and timing to eat and all this stuff, and so
it was
you
lot.
had 4 children when you had 3 babies.
Basically.
Yeah.
Only 2 of them were in diapers. But I remember I don't think I would have been able to function if we had not addressed my, mental state at that time. But I do remember after kind of getting balanced out, it's still being really hard and not feeling like I ever got to sleep. And feeling more than anything, more than like the normal things you have when you have kids, was not feeling like I was enough and always feeling guilty.
Do you remember before we moved down to plant our church? Do you remember a guy who said that he had a dream about us when we were trying to have kids before we moved? And he said he saw 2 blue balloons. Mm-hmm. And I was like, all right, well, then that means we're going to have 2 boys, and our first baby was a girl, and our second baby was a girl. And I was like, you're wrong, Colonel Sanders. Like it was just not happening. But little did we know, we ended up having another boy.
So this was a funny thing, too. On our, what anniversary was it? Our 11th?
We've been together a while.
I don't remember. It was an anniversary dinner, and I had started talking about, let's just have one more. I just want one more baby. And at first, Scott had said, no, we are done. We are done.
We got our boy. He's big. That's what we want. That's what we wanted.
But
we wanted a chance for D1, and I think we got it.
But it was our anniversary, and we had been talking about, let's just try, because I still don't know how or when to make us get pregnant. It might happen, it might not happen. And so we had talked about, well, let's just for one, and on our anniversary.
You know how.
Okay.
You said we have to be transparent. So don't say that.
You're so stupid.
We'll just leave that alone.
As far as tracking ovulation,
Don't
that
try
sort
to
of
fix
thing.
it. Don't try to fix it. It's okay. You got it.
And so it wasn't like we could just plan, okay, in 2 years, we're going to have one more baby. It was very much still, I have PCOS. We don't know when I'm ovulating. So if it happens, it happens. And so we had said, well, maybe one. And then on our anniversary, you had said, okay, things had started to settle down a little bit, I think. And you had said, okay, let's try for just one more. If we don't.
Every man has momentary lapses of stupidity.
Some longer
And
than
in
others.
that moment, I thought, let's have another one.
Why not?
This will be
we
great.
have 3. What's 4?
This will work.
And so we had, okay, let's do that then. So our anniversary is in July. And by Thanksgiving, I had kind of felt like I might be, but I was taking pregnancy tests and I was not. And at first I was like a little disappointed, because every time, for anyone that's experienced a pregnancy loss or infertility, even if you don't, even if it's not like you're dying to be pregnant, even if you already have kids, a negative pregnancy test, it's just like reliving all those emotions. And so every time I would take one and it would be negative, it was almost like everything was stirred up again. And so I had finally got to the point where it was like around Halloween, I think I had one and it was negative. And I'm like, you know what? I'm blessed. I'm happy with the 3 we have. I'm not going to worry about it. If it happens, it happens. I don't think it's going to happen, and that's okay. And so I remember on Thanksgiving, we hosted, my brother was saying, oh, aren't you going to have another one? Like always razzing me. And I was like, you know what? I thought that I might have been pregnant, but I think that we're good. I don't think it's going to happen, and that's okay. Like the 3, they're enough. And so we had gone into the holidays I felt more at peace. Like, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Like, I'm not going to be coveting a 4th child. I have 3. I need to appreciate what God's done in our
The
lives.
world's built for 2.
Yeah.
Booths at a restaurant, cars,
Yeah.
tax incentives.
Everything. Yes.
You can get this much for a child, but if you go beyond this,
After
there's just no
nothing.
more benefit.
Yes. So it was the holidays, and we went up to visit your parents up in Northwest Indiana. So your dad, Bill, and your mom, Marilee, and then your brothers and sisters. And we took the kids up there. And you want to talk about that story?
No, you can do it.
No. So, okay, I guess I'm going to do this. So we went to their house, and we had all the kids, and it was in the morning, and it was like a couple days after Christmas, and the kids all needed baths and that sort of thing. So I had the kids up. I had all 3 of them. I'm stripping them down. I'm about to put them in the bath to one of the guest rooms upstairs. And Silas was starting to walk downstairs, and I holler down, and Scott's like, no, I got him. He's fine. So he comes down, and then I hear Scott say, Charity, come here. I'm like, oh, Lord, what did Silas get into? What happened? And so I go down there, and I'm like, what's going on? I'm trying to give the kids a bath. And he's like, do you know what he has in his mouth? And I'm like, oh my gosh, there is no telling what this little boy has in his mouth.
You found a pregnancy test
in the sink, under the sink.
in the sink.
Not
That's
in the
gross.
sink. Okay, number 1, it was not used. So it was like an unused, wrapped up pregnancy test. And he had found it. It was like the perfect size for him just to kind of wave around. He popped it in his mouth. And he went downstairs, and that is what Scott
And I'm
saw.
like, you better not be up there taking a pregnancy test.
And
what
I'm
the
like-
heck? And she's like, I don't even know what you're talking about.
I'm like, what are you talking about? I did not get a pregnancy test. Well, there was one in the bathroom.
So-
he has a couple sisters.
Your mind starts noodling or something.
My mind did start noodling, and I thought to myself, well, it's been since October. I'm still waiting for my cycle to start, and I have been like this and that. And by the time you're pregnant 3 times, there's like certain things that you are kind of fags. And I'm like, you know what? It's right here. I don't have to go and spend any money. The kids are right here. I'm just going to try it out. And I'm like, and Scott's not going to know about it, so he's not going to freak out, because every time I would get a pregnancy test, he'd be like, oh my gosh.
And she yells from upstairs. She's like, Scott, come here. And I'm like, no, I'm not coming. And she's like,
And I'm like,
Come here.
come here for a minute. And he went upstairs very hesitantly, and I just handed it to him, and it was positive. And that was how we found out we were pregnant with Saul, our 3-year-old now. Yeah. And I think that it was like a Michael Scott moment when he finds Toby is coming back to the office. You're like, no.
Well, I was happy and scared to death, and I just thought, like, come on.
Let's be honest. I don't think you were happy. I think you were.
I was freaking out. How am I going to afford this? How are we going to do this? Like, we're in ministry. We have no money. Like,
And I had to remind you, this was your idea. You're the one that said you wanted to try for a 4th kid. I was okay.
And remember, a few minutes ago, I just said that every man has momentary lapses of judgment, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was probably looking into your starry eyes and thinking, I want to make a baby with you, or something like that. It was in that moment. It was a momentary glimpse of weakness. I don't know what happened. And so here it happened, and guess what? We have another boy. And you're thinking,
he's amazing.
2 blue balloons. He pulled it over on me. And I'm telling you, we love him to death. I mean,
he's everyone's baby in the family.
The entire household would be different if it wasn't for this little dude.
Yeah. It definitely was the period in our family, like the end of the sentence. And I had my tubes tied while I was opened up from having a C-section with him.
We made sure we didn't go to a Catholic hospital because they don't do that.
We were done. We're like, okay, God, we're done with the miracles now. You don't have to
Thank you,
give
God,
us
for
anymore.
everything. Thank you for these chapters. And but, all said and done, we've got a family.
We got a for real family.
We do. And there is like plenty to do. They each have their own personality. They each enjoy their own things. We've got ones who are organized, ones who are disorganized, ones who are opinionated, ones that are easygoing.
All of them love music, though.
Our children are like Baskin Robbins. And
what's flavor?
There is a flavor for each one. And we just decided that you can have all those flavors with 4 and not, 31 wonderful flavors. We just decided to stop
4.
at 4. Yeah. But let me tell you, like, as crazy as this life is, as crazy as it is raising 4 kids, 9 years old and under, I wouldn't want to do it with anybody else but you.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And the good news is that, when we
You're
first...
not pregnant, right?
I'm not
okay,
pregnant.
She's like, the good news. I'm like, no, you're wrecking this episode. Please don't do this.
That we started off when we had Saul, and we actually had 3 in diapers at one time because Silas was 2 when we had Saul. And as of this week, we have no kids in diapers.
As of this week, for the
And
first time in
ever.
9 years of our life, we're not going to buy
Change
diapers.
diapers. Yeah. And I am so happy right now. Like, there are no birds.
Yeah. I want to have, take all the boys outside, have, a pee on the tree party.
You're
amazing. You guys are awesome. We're doing it.
No more diapers.
No more diapers.
Now we have money for so many more fun things.
We can get you Robux for Roblox. We can buy you video games. There's all sorts of things we can do
options.
with that $90 to $160 a month.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we're excited. But it does show, when I was in the season where there was literally 3 kids in diapers at the same time, and a husband that would conveniently disappear anytime one of them needed to be changed. I was like, this is never going to end. I'm always going to change diapers. And it just shows that as of this week, we don't have any more, and seasons do change.
And a portion of our relationship just got better because I no longer have to avoid my wife for about a minute and a half,
now the
6 times a day.
The resentment can dissipate and transfer to other areas.
That's right. I think it's amazing. Listen, our story can be funny and can be just crazy, but we just want to thank you for joining us, hanging out with us. We know that for everything under the sun, there is a season, and I believe that there's some exciting things in store for our family, our ministry, and our business, and we want to thank you for joining us this week on Life Along the Way.
We will see you guys later.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.